I had to recognize that Turkey is a member of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And the Quran very plainly and very clearly has prohibited Muslims from such a thing, membership in NATO. And Allah continues to say that if you join them in NATO, for example, that alliance of Jews and Christians, which is at the heart of modern Western civilization, and which has NATO as its military arm. If you join them, you no longer belong to us, you belong to them. وَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُمْ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. And so using the Quran as the measuring rod, using the Quran as the criterion with which to judge and to distinguish truth from falsehood, we have come to the conclusion that so long as Turkey remains a member of NATO, Turkey don't belong to us, it belongs to them. And we have found, to our sadness, that Turkey is showing no signs whatsoever of leaving NATO. Indeed, NATO has military bases in Turkey, and these military bases have nuclear weapons in them. And they're not there only for decoration. We are of the view that when the Great War starts, when NATO, which is lusting for war with Russia and China, provokes that war, and we expect it, we hope that we are wrong. We are expecting that war to take place during the 4 years of Joe Biden as President of the US. And we expect that by the time the war takes place, Turkey will still be a member of NATO. There's no sign showing any possibility of leaving. And so we are of the view that Turkey would be obliged, according to the law of the treaty by which you join NATO, to join in the war against Russia. All of this is simple to understand. It doesn't mean that I am against Turkey or against this one or against that one or against the Ottoman Empire. Nonsense. This is an analysis. And we have said, and that is that Russia is now the most powerful military power in the world. And there is much in Surah An-Naml to explain that. And that if Turkey joins in the war against NATO, then nuclear missiles will fly from Turkey against Moscow. So will Russia sit with its arms like this, folded, with Turkey, NATO's missiles, nuclear missiles flying from Turkey to Moscow and to Russia? The response, I believe, from Russia would destroy Turkey. This is my opinion. The Turkish army, the Turkish armed forces will be decimated. I'm not saying this because I don't like this one or don't like that one. I'm telling you, this is my military analysis. And I concluded that it is perhaps because of Turkey's role in the Great War. That is why our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, prophesied that within 7 months or 7 years of the Great War, the conquest of Constantinople will take place after the Great War, and the Great War has not taken place as yet. And that conquest of Constantinople will become possible because the Turkish armed forces will be decimated in the event that Turkey joins with NATO in war on Russia. If Turkey does not join in that war with Russia, it will imply that Turkey would have left NATO before the war. If that happens, we would be very pleased and happy that Turkey is now acting in a manner consistent with the truth and submitting to the Quran, but we've not seen any signs that the Turkish leadership is showing that respect for the Quran. And then we've continued to explain that in our view, and you're free to differ with us, the primary reason for the conquest of Constantinople is not military, is not the freeing of the Bosphorus and the Straits of Dardanelles. This was a view I had 10 years ago when I gave my first lecture on this subject at the International Islamic University in Malaysia. Subsequently, I realized, no, this is one of the reasons that the Bosphorus and the Straits of Dardanelles will now be free from NATO, and that the Russian Navy will be able to pass through and enter into the Mediterranean, and that's bad news for Israel. But now I came to the conclusion that no, that's not the most important reason. Because Allah gives insight and He chooses when to give it. And we sit and we wait and we think and we think and we ponder and we analyze. And then the insight comes when it comes. That the primary reason for the conquest of Constantinople, whether they like it or they don't, whether they agree with it or they don't, is irrelevant, because they would not have the power to prevent it. And that is that when we conquer Constantinople, we will return Hagia Sophia. And the return of Hagia Sophia to them, 600 years after it was taken from them, shamefully, disgracefully, sinfully, it's now returned to them. And they will be crying. There will be tears flowing in the whole Orthodox Christian world. They will be crying and crying and crying when we return Hagia Sophia to them, even when they have not as yet received it. And they're listening to these words of mine in Greece, in Thessaloniki, and as they listen to this video, they will be crying. They'll be crying. So tell those who celebrate the conversion of that Christian cathedral to a masjid, tell them they got just a little time left to continue with their nonsense, and then we'll get rid of them. And when that Christian world draws closer to us with love and affection, we ended by saying that the alliance, the friendship and alliance between the Ummah, the community which follows Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and the Ummah or the community which follows Nabi Isa alayhi salam, in the same deen of Islam, these two communities will come together in friendship and alliance.